Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Media Talks TV with your host, Tony J. If you're new here and you just discovered my channel, hit the subscribe button, click the like and share, and hit the bell notifications because we got more videos coming down the pipeline. Well, I wanted to start this video off, I guess, it's August and right now school's about to start. And with school starting, you know, I thought it was best to, do this video because, I'm from Baltimore and I know a lot of you on here are sending your kids to college. And I thought I'd do a two-part episode of telling my backstory about college and letting parents know what they need to watch out for when they send their kids off to college because there's so much dogma out there, about college nowadays, how you need it in order to survive and that you need it in order to be successful in life. And some of the stuff I fell for it in the beginning. It was 2008. And I think when I look back on 2008, and I was in high school at the time, the options weren't really presented to me thoroughly as to what was the best pathway to really being successful in life. Some of our parents, they didn't go to college. My parents didn't go to college. And I guess that kind of had an impact on them. So it was their belief that me going to college and me getting a college education might be the pathway to being much more successful in life. But when I first started thinking about college, I was thinking, the only pathway out was to get a degree. But we don't talk to our kids about the trades or about maybe going to a 2-year college and working on the side. I didn't really think about that because for me, it was kind of like the peer pressures. And all my friends at the time, between 2007 and 2008, there was three things on our minds. One was senior prom. Other was the SAT. And then with college, it just felt like, you know, you get that senioritis starts creeping in. And, some of my friends, they kind of faltered through that pressure. And then my other friends, they kind of pushed on through. I was grateful to have a teacher that kind of made sure they pushed me through to make sure that I landed on my feet once I got out of college because there really wasn't once I got out of high school, excuse me, because there really, when you're from Baltimore, there really isn't much of a pathway for most people. And I think the naivete of our teachers within the Baltimore City public school system, some of them only saw two pathways for certain students. If you had maybe a 3.0 or 3.5, maybe they encourage you to go to a 2 year or 4 year college. You know, if you had below a 3.0, maybe for certain students, like most of my friends, it was the military, the Marines, the Army. But for me, my teacher looked at me and he said, "Well, you're going to college." And rightly so, I went. And at the time when I was planning for college, I didn't really take into account what I was jumping into because I knew deep down there were only two colleges in my mind that I wanted to really go to. And those two colleges were either, well, actually, it was three. So there was like three colleges, and that was Howard, which was my top one. Bowie was going to be the second. And the last one, if I didn't get into either of those colleges, it was going to be Community College of Baltimore County, CCBC. Most, I didn't even really apply to Bowie, but I was encouraged to apply to Morgan State. So that ended up becoming exchanged out because there was no way in hell I was going to go to Coppin State. No way I was going to go. I don't go on West Side like that. But Morgan was like Morgan State was like a block away from. Well, I lived 3 blocks away from Morgan State, so it was down the road. And I guess between me and my aunt, there was no other really pathway but Morgan State because I was raised around Morgan practically my whole entire life. I had mentors that came to my school when I was about maybe 8 years old that mentored me and tutored me after school in times when nobody could help me with my homework. It was always Morgan students coming up to Yorkwood Elementary, uh, Winston Middle, which was also a block down from my school as well. They were coming up to the school and tutoring and teaching young kids. And then we had this thing called the Kuamba program, which I was paired up with college students that were telling me about, architecture and engineering. And some of my fondest memories at Morgan State were the students that helped me with complex math problems. I was doing horrible at math. And then when I had a Morgan student come by and teach me how to do math, that was really one of the things that I remember growing up. So Morgan had a very big impact on me. I had reluctantly kind of went to college because, roundabout 2007, it was like the last month of 2007, I had applied to Howard. I wanted to go to Howard so bad. Like, I wanted to go to Howard over Morgan State. And it seemed like All my friends were getting into UMBC, St. Mary's College, University of Maryland College Park, Eastern Shore, and they were going there. Everybody got a college acceptance except me, and I felt left out. So when I signed up for Morgan, Morgan initially rejected me because I didn't have the SAT score that they wanted. I had like a 630 SAT score. My scores was in the crapper basically. I had a 630 SAT score. My math score was the lowest score. I believe I had like a 350 on the math. I had a 450, 450, I guess, or 350 on the reading, and I guess 200 boosted up on the writing score. So my SAT scores weren't the best. And I thought college wasn't going to be for me. I thought I wasn't going to go to college. I went on numerous tours. I went to the University of Baltimore tour, but I didn't think I was going to be cut out to be a college student. So I decided to look at going to a trade school. So I looked at North American Trade and I looked at Lincoln Tech. And what happened there is many of my teachers stirred me completely away from trade school. And, you know, they told me, well, why do you want to go to trade school? You got the grades to go to college. You can go to a 2 year. You don't want to go to a trade school. Why do you want to go to a trade school? You have the grades. You don't need to be in trade school. Not with a mind like yours. And I had a lot of that. Like, teachers think they know what's best for a student when they talk about the options. And what's troubling, like back then, it was, you know, if you didn't get into college, you were going to end up being a statistic. And this is in Baltimore, to be exact. Like most of the people that go to college, if they don't go to college, then they're looked at by the teachers as, well, you're going to end up being a statistic or you're going to end up being dead or in jail or shot. So you had those teachers taking very drastic measures to say, you know, well, this route might work out for this student, but this route might not work for that student. And I had plenty of those. Like, College Board is very influential. And we don't talk about this enough about, you know, College Board and how they become kind of like a parasite in the educational system. You take all these AP classes, these SAT classes, the ACT courses, you're paying $1,500 out of your pocket to take all these standardized tests, all these really aptitude tests, and they don't mount up to anything. I took the SAT 3 times before I decided to say, no, I'm not taking it again because the application fee was too damn expensive. You're talking about maybe about, I believe at the time it was $45. So every time you signed up for it, it was all this, when you went to the exam, you had to proctor it, you had to go to different schools over town. get up 8 a.m. in the morning and it's like a 3 hour exam and you staring at a bubble sheet all damn day for 3.5 hours. Like I couldn't do that no more. You know, I took my SAT test over at Edmondson High School, and I didn't even like going to Edmondson High School. I hated Edmondson. Edmondson was a deep, dark hole. Like I ain't want to be there. But I took the test over there, and I said, this is the last time I'm taking this test over with this motherfucker, because I'm not going back over west. You know, and the final time I took the test, took the exam, I was I took it at City High School. It was right up near Northeast Baltimore. I took it over there because it was just a much better environment, you know. So I took it over there. And after I took it, your scores come in and all this other crazy shit, you know. And I knew after I got the scores and my math score my reading score got lower. It didn't get higher, it got lower. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, I can't do no better than this, so I might as well throw in the towel. So that's what I did. Even though my mom convinced me many times to take the SAT for a fourth time, but I didn't want to do a fourth time. I thought 3 times was enough. The score didn't improve, the score just didn't improve, you know. And after I took the test, which was in October of '07, I went and took a tour at Morgan State University. And I I didn't get much out of the tour. I mean, we stayed in the Tina Tyler ballroom for 3.5 hours. And I was like, what's the point of me going to this school? Why am I going to this school? Am I going because my parents want me to go? Am I going because my aunt want me to go? Or am I going because I want to be here? And I couldn't really find a compelling reason why I wanted to go to Morgan State. And then I was sitting home and I put in a tape called School Days. And School Days was one of the first movies that introduced me to HBCU life. And I didn't know if I was really cut out to be a part of the HBCU experience. I guess for me, I guess I wanted to give it a try. Then around 2007, the first season of A Different World came out on DVD and it was at Barnes and Nobles. And I grabbed that and I gave it to my guidance counselor, Miss Reed. And she put together a student group to discuss the HBCU experience because she had graduated from Hampton University. And Miss Reed was really instrumental in introducing me to the idea that I could go to college. So I reluctantly went and signed up for Well, I got the application and signed up for Morgan State University, but the presentation that they had at the time wasn't really compelling enough for me to go to want to sign up. When you first hear about HBCUs, because I went to Howard's HBCU experience tours. I went on a college tour at HBC at Howard University, and this was around like 2006. I decided to prioritize applying to Howard because I thought Howard had those connections. Howard had the film program because I wanted to be a part of the film program at Howard. But my my cousin who's from DC and my aunt also deterred me from actually going to Howard University. They kept telling me, "Oh, don't go to Howard, don't apply to Howard. They bougie. They is ghetto. Like they don't have the resources. They overbook on housing." I heard all of these things. I'm like, it shouldn't be, it couldn't be that bad. It couldn't be that bad. And then my cousin called me up because he from Northeast DC. And he told me, you know, don't apply to Howard because if you apply to Howard, you're going to be distracted by the party element. And that's when I knew right then and there Howard had a reputation for partying. And every time I think about a lot of HBCUs compared to predominantly white institutions, it's what they prioritize versus what the academic excellence is. Most of the time, when you go to these college tours, because I went on an HBCU tour before, they had one when I was in my junior year of college where during spring break, you toured the Southern College Tour. They did do this what's called the Southern College Tour, where you go from Virginia State University to Hampton to North Carolina A&T, and then go directly down to um maybe you might stop in Fayetteville and then go right down to Alabama A&T all the way back up to Atlanta to do Clark Atlanta and Morehouse and Spelman. And then y'all go back and it was like $700 back in 2006. And when I was looking back on those times and those experiences, some of it really didn't amount to shit, to be honest. We spend all this money trying to market HBCUs to low income black kids because we think that's the pathway out. And I got suckered in to going to an HBCU because I thought, well, oh, it's the Divine Nine, it's the bands and all this other stuff. And I didn't really think once, well, what's the plan when you graduate from college? Are you going to go to an internship? Are you going to work for a Fortune 500 company? And then, before you know it, you're competing with students that went to the Ivy League, that went to a predominantly white institution. And then you just realize, okay, well, where am I going? And I found myself at a crossroads when I went to Morgan State. And I'm gonna tell this story the way that I'm gonna tell it, and I'm not going to hold my tongue when I tell you the things that I'm telling you because everybody likes to tout Morgan coming back from, they're expanding, they're growing, and I'm seeing on the news that they got new housing. But when we were up there back in '08 to 2012 or to 2011, it wasn't like that. And when we was on campus, we had to fight for every damn thing. And even 20 years ago, Morgan had to fight for a damn library at one point. But I'm gonna tell the story from my point of view because for one, you know, I grew up around Morgan State and I seen how that school has evolved. And two, it's my point of view. So if you got a problem with it, and if you think I'm generalizing or I'm being racist when I'm speaking about Morgan State, the school that I went to, that I attended, that I got accepted to, um, I'm gonna give you a few minutes to just click off of this video because I know you ain't gonna want to hear what the hell I gotta say. You know, so I'm gonna start right around June 2008. I had just graduated from Ace Academy, and Ace Academy High School, which is my high school that's located in uh, North Baltimore, to be exact. But May of 2008, me and my friends, we all graduated from Ace Academy, and I had got accepted to the pre-college program. And essentially, the pre-college program is it was two different programs at Morgan State. There was the Access Bridge program, which started later in the early August, and then there's the pre-college program that starts in mid-June to end in late July. And I got a chance to be on campus right after like 2 weeks after I graduated from Ace Academy. 2 weeks after I graduated after out of high school. And it was really simple time because it was the Obama era. It's in the middle of an election, and then it was also in the middle of a recession, the Great Recession that was happening. So those two things were happening at the same time. And, you know, at the time after I got rejected from Howard University, which I thought that I was going to go to a trade school. I was looking up North American trade, but I was convinced to go to Morgan. So I went to Morgan on the behest of my aunt. And I stayed on campus. I met a couple of friends. I made a couple of friends, made a lot of friends. And, you know, I felt like it was like a heaven sent to get into college that early. Now, First time I got my class, it was like I had three classes on campus. I had algebra, I had reading comprehension, and English. And they were remedial classes. And that's another thing that I partially hated about college was taking remedial courses because my SAT wasn't good enough. They said, "Well, you have to pass these three remedial courses in order to get accepted, conditionally accepted to Morgan State." I took a reading class and a I took an English class. My reading class was the easiest class that I ever had. I had a high school English teacher from Douglas High School, and I had my English teacher, Professor Campbell, and then there was my math teacher. He was Russian. It was Dr. Resnick, and I feel like the hardest class I ever took was math because Dr. Resnick, he had like a thick Russian accent. So when he was telling me certain things that I had to do in algebra, I couldn't understand it. And I felt like mentally I had given up. And Dr. Resnick, he was kind of like I remember Resnick as being this kind of very kind of his hygiene was not up to par. I don't know. There's a lot of like a lot of Russian people, like not to be racist, but like yeah, a lot of Russian people kind of they got that hygiene thing not in the right like format. Like because when he went up to somebody and his breath was woo, his breath was whoa. I had to lean back like Fat Joe because his breath was woo. He had gold tooth in his mouth. His teeth was rotting out. Some of his teeth was gray and rotting out and shit. And I was like, no, like why? Why did they send us this? Why did they send us this guy? Um, and I met this girl. She was from Chicago. Her name was E Baby. She had a real Nigerian name, E Baby. Now I can't forget that name, but she was from Chicago, and she wasn't well versed. She didn't know much about Baltimore, but she was the nicest person I had ever met. I never forgot about E Baby, you know. And there were a lot of girls like it was a lot of cute girls, and that's the one thing about college that like they always convince me, oh, you need to go to college because there's gonna be a lot of girls in college, and that's the first thing they try to hook you with is the girls, the girls, the girls. And there was some nice girls in class, man. Like I can't say that enough. When you first start looking for a girl on campus, you looking for a wife. And that was in my mind even the first time I stepped foot on campus, I was talking to the girls. I wanted to hang around the girls. I wanted to be around the girls, you know. And the thing that when I went on campus, so much had happened on campus. Like it was crazy. Like I said, it was 2008. It was in the middle of a presidential election. We was on the heels of getting our first black president. And then, you know, I was in a pre-college program and we had a we had a presentation to go to. We had several presentations to go to in pre-college. And one of those presentations was about um it, it was about welcoming us to pre-college, and we had all these professors and Dr. James and all these people. They were welcoming us to college life. And of course, you know, when you're there, it was great having a whole bunch of people that you're cool with, and a lot of them weren't immature. But I noticed the mentality started really shifting. Like some of us were coming out of high school, we were trying to get to know, well, who the Shot Town people, who the DC niggas, and who the PG County people. And I met one guy, he was from Mitchellville, Maryland. Not Mitchellville, Upper Marlboro. Yeah, he's from Upper Marlboro. And homeboy showed me a picture of his 5 bedroom home with a garage and a basketball at the end of the driveway. And I'm like, this kid grew up like that. And it was a black kid. It was a black kid because I'm not all I knew was Baltimore. But when I went to Morgan, I knew it was a lot of PG County kids, and I always assumed all the PG County kids was just rich. Like all the kids had police officers or sheriffs in their family that served in politics and law enforcement because they were closer to DC. So I automatically assume every time I looked at a PG County kid, I'm like, yeah, you're a rich kid. Y'all live in the richest black county in America. Come on now. Like I know your ass ain't strapped up for no money. I'm from Baltimore. I'm from the hood. We from, well, not necessarily, but we from a rough city, you know. And when I went to college, I was like, when I went to the presentation, we had this guy, and I forgot his name. I hate to say I forgot his name, but he was the career advisor at Morgan State at the time. And one one guy that I knew that I remember was his name was Chambers. And Chambers was a big dude. He's like maybe 300 pound, over 300-pound dude that came up on the stage and told every student, because he's in student affairs, he said, don't let me see you in my office. Because if I see you in my office, that means we got problems. And Chambers is the guy that he was the one that he kicked students out that were problems. And he was a big dude. So if you was in Chambers' office and you got in trouble, whether it be you was smoking weed on campus or getting drunk and fucking shit up, vandalizing, doing stupid shit, they they send you to student affairs, which is in Truth Hall. And student affairs office they didn't play. If you got put in that office, and I remember walking in the truth hall at one point, and this guy was in an office where he was talking to the board about reinstating his expulsion. And I remember I heard through the door because they got drunk on campus and they got caught by the MSU police. It was like, okay, well, she tried to get her student reinstatement back in because she got expelled. She was facing expulsion actually. So she got a suspension. And I overheard some of those conversations, and Chambers was always in those meetings issuing warnings. And Chambers was a guy to be feared on campus. You didn't want to end up in Chambers' office because then it would be a legal problem. You know what I'm saying? But with the presentation, this career advisor, he stepped up to the podium and he said, because he tried to bust our bubble because we was excited to be at Morgan State. And they kept on, he did a speech where he said how to get kicked out of Morgan State. And I'm like, who the hell would come to a student event and you're a new student at the school and tell you, oh, how to get kicked out of Morgan State? Get caught smoking marijuana, get caught fighting, get caught past your dorm curfew. And he plagiarism. That he just laid it out there just like literally, and it was crazy because I'm like, he looked like he was real serious, and the thing about it is you're supposed to be welcoming us. You're not supposed to be giving no downgrading speech like that. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he went up to the podium and he gave this speech, and I'm like, I knew this wasn't high school anymore, but why the hell would you tell somebody a speech like that? That's always been problematic for me. You know, like I said, I had to take all these remedial courses in order to pass. And, you know, I knew everything was a distraction to me. And sometimes I got caught up in that distractions. I got caught up in a lot of distractions. Hell, first time I drunk on campus, I remember, me and my homeboys, like I met this homeboy from Oakland. He was from Oakland, and me and him, no, he's from Sacktown. No, he was Sacramento. Homeboy was from Sacramento. And me and him linked up on campus because me and him used to, we fucked with Mac Dre tapes, and we used to listen to Too Short and Mac Dre and E40 and shit like that. And we he would come to my dorm room, and we be listening to some Too Short. We be listening to Sebo, Mac Dre, Sneak the Key, because he was in the hyphy and shit like that. Like we linked up because I always fucked with the West Coast, So I was always cool with niggas from the West. So, we link up. I let him borrow some of my CDs. He still ain't giving me my fucking CD back, but I let him borrow one of my CDs. He was in the hyphy music. I was in the hyphy music. And before you knew it, you know, I was I felt like I was now finally making friends on campus, that I was cool with, you know. I had a lot of mentors. Like my stay, like I'm gonna tell you about my dorm room because Morgan dorm room is not like what it is today. When I tell you about dorm rooms and shit, nigga, we stayed at O'Connell Hall. And O'Connell Hall was was the roughest dorm that I had ever stayed at on campus. Literally, it felt like I stayed on the third floor. Me and my homeboys, we was on the third floor. I remember it was so dirty. Like the showers was so dirty. I was like, I had to wear my shoes in the shower to clean up because I ain't want to get no scabies. I mean, that motherfucker was so dirty. They net like janitorial services at HBCUs are so goddamn lazy. They don't even clean up the freshman dorm rooms, and it'd be dirty as fuck. And don't get me started on the female dormitories, man. I mean, it is fucking nasty, man. I mean, god damn. I remember hearing stories about the female dorm rooms being horrible. But when I was at the male dorm rooms, I mean, the shit was just fucking nasty. We were next to Lake Montebello. There was a river that ran through it. And I remember I get up in the morning and I go and brush my teeth. And I told my homeboy, yo, it was something flying in the bathroom. I'm thinking it's a wasp or something. It looked like a dragonfly or some shit. I'm like, what the fuck is this flying in the bathroom? I'm brushing my teeth and shit. I look up and then I see a big ass spider, and then I look out the window and it's this bird. I'm like, this look like a fucking pterodactyl. And I'm like, I'm seeing this shit early in the morning. I'm waking up because I'm trying to go get something to eat at Rawlins Dining Hall. And I wake up and I'm like, we going up to see. I walk up to the window and I see this big ass, like it looked like a it either looked like a seagull or an egret. And I'm like, wow, like they really got natural like reserves in this whole area. Like we was like our O'Connell Hall. If you ever been to O'Connell Hall, O'Connell sits in the back of the wooded areas. So you're gonna get all types of mosquitoes and spiders and rats and shit. And I remember I'm walking down the hallway and I see two big ass rats running up the hallway. Trust me, this is not a story that everybody wants to hear about, Morgan, but you won't hear it. Okay. Two big ass rats. I'm getting ready to go take a shower. I'm like, I'll go home and take a shower. I'll go home and take a shower. I saw two rats run out the bathroom. I saw two rats run out the bathroom. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's time to go home. It's time to go home. And I'm sitting up there. I gotta get dressed It's hot as shit. It's like eight. It's like 80 degrees in June, and me and my homeboys, we walking up Rawlins dining hall, and Rawlins stopped making breakfast at a certain hour. You know, it's this guy that's the chef, and he makes the omelets. And you can't. And one thing about being at HBCU, when the omelet man come, if he say I stopped making omelets at 8 a.m., you better believe that nigga said 8 a.m. I remember, I went up there, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna miss it. I ran up the steps because I always like the omelets and shit. And I'm running up the steps. We get there, it's like 7:49, and he's packing up everything. And I'm like, hey man, can I have an omelet with some mushrooms? I'm like, and he looking at me. He's an old black guy, old big black guy and shit. He say, "What that sign say? 8 o'clock, 8 a.m." And he always looked at me all weird and shit. Like we had this meal plan. I had a meal plan, and you know, when I first went, it was like, okay, I would scan my meal plan because we get a 19-week meal plan. And I would scan my meal plans, and once I got in there, you had a choice between getting the omelet, having a cereal and milk, or having what's called continental breakfast. Like they'll set out like if you wake up at 8 a.m. and shit and you miss breakfast, because they say, well, breakfast end at 8 a.m. So they set out a whole bunch of fucking bran muffins and shit. I think this was Thompson Catering that does this shit. And I know Thompson Catering, you know Thompson Catering because that's the only people that Morgan used to work for. And we didn't get much to eat, but whenever lunchtime came around, it was either pizza, fried chicken, fries, hamburger. And the hamburgers was just bland. Like I remember I ate a hamburger on campus at Morgan. It was a shitty hamburger. Like it was a hamburger that you might find at an elementary school. Like we got elementary like when I was at Morgan, we had like fucking elementary school food. Like just like chicken patties and white bread, white potato bread, and having like pizza, and the pizza sauce was just all flat and shit. Like wasn't it didn't feel like real sauce, and the pizza was made with cornstarch, and you had this cornstarch uh all over your mouth as you ate the pizza because it wasn't well done. Like that's the type of food we got at Morgan. It was kind of like a likened to prison food in a sense. Like the food wasn't that all that, you know. But after I went to lunch, I would walk like a mile because I was getting some exercise that morning. Like I would walk from Rawlins Hall, dining hall, all the way up to the communication building, which was right across the bridge. So I had to walk two bridges just to get to class. And like I said, O'Connell, you can't get to by bridge. You had to walk down the steps of the Morgan Bridge just to get to your dorm room, because it was like kind of like off campus in a sense, you know. And as I was like walking, you would definitely get some exercise. So we would power walk. Most of my friends, we would get something to eat, and then we would power walk to class. And from that time on out, I started getting used to being able to go from one part of Morgan to the other by walking. And we had so much on campus, like the oldest place you would go on campus was, of course, McKeldin, the old, which we call that the old student center. Because I remember when we was at McKeldin, um, McMecken Square. What it was, not McMecken, but McKeldin Center. They I remember that was the original student center, and that's where the original, like, everybody went. And even when I was younger. And after that, it was like, okay, well, you know, I walked from Rawlings all the way down to the communications building. And, at the time, Morgan had a lot of construction. Like, Morgan isn't what it was right now. Morgan, they had potholes in the yard. Like, the yard, like, there'd be puddles of water that would drain off into the grass and shit like that. And it wasn't back then, it wasn't no national treasure when I went there. It was still a lot of construction happening on campus. And you know, when I was walking across the campus, the yard would be very treacherous because they had uneven pavement. And you know, some parts of me would be like, well, it's a HBCU, so they ain't gonna do nothing about it. And then you're reminded by the staff that this is what struggle looks like. And when you try to call out certain things, especially with an HBCU, like just the little minute things, all of a sudden you're reminded of what black struggle looks like. They always try to throw that in your face, like whenever you complain as a student, and perseverance. They always talk about perseverance and setbacks and failures. But at the end of the day, Morgan's a business. It's a school, but it's also a business. So if I'm paying tuition to go to this fucking school, least y'all could do is have even pavement on the campus when I'm walking across campus. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I remember when President Richardson was there, it was still like Morgan was still in transition, you know. So as I'm walking across campus, I see nothing but, they're trying to paint uh the hall, you know, they're trying to really like fix up the Banneker Hall. And I know there was a Carnegie building, which was right across. They all everything was had quarry rock on it. I don't know why, but they loved their quarry rock, which was weird. And then at Jenkins Center, it was just crazy. Like I'll dive into detail about the Jenkins Center, but as I was going on to the communication center, of course, I had my first class was with Dr. Resnick. And Resnick would sometimes start class without really kind of like saying anything. No good morning, none of that. Like he was very impersonal. And that's one thing about HBCUs. They always have a lot of foreign professors. Like I've encountered more foreign professors at HBCU than I have at a predominantly white institution. I'm gonna give you the other side of that story in a minute, but I really wanted to take this time to really talk about that issue. Like one of the biggest pet peeves that I have with HBCUs is that they often hire professors that don't speak fluent English. And when it comes to the issue of how teachers teach, especially in the science realm, of course, there are a lot of foreigners that get hired as professors because a lot of them don't exist at PWIs or predominantly white institutions. You have to speak fluent English. You have to. When you mix broken Russian with algebra, how the hell are you going to understand what the guy is saying? I couldn't understand a word this guy would say. And he would go through a lecture without stopping to make sure the class got it. And I felt like, okay, this is disingenuous. Like, you're playing, like, this college is fucking playing games with you because you got to pass this class in order to, in order to get into Morgan. So they had like this thing where like I'm jumping hoops and I'm trying to get a tutor to help me out with algebra because I hadn't taken algebra in like 4 fucking years. And even though it's easy to me now, like trying to get a quadratic equation, trying to solve a graph quadrant, like that shit was so fucking hard for me. Like it just made my brains freeze up and shit. And I didn't like that. And part of me, because he went very fast, I couldn't get it. So I I froze up and I almost gave up. Then of course I went to Professor Campbell's class, which was right after lunch. And I would get what was crazy is I would get I always liked going into Professor Campbell's class because we'd always have these thought-provoking discussions. And what I liked about his class was he was easygoing. Like the guy was like Professor Campbell was a very easygoing guy. Like that's what I enjoyed the most about his class. English wasn't an issue. But then when it came to math and tutoring and stuff like that, that's when I started having problems, you know. And then each time I went into his class, Each time I went into Dr. Resnick's class for algebra, I just kind of completely tuned out. I stopped taking notes. I stopped writing. It started becoming a issue where I felt like, okay, I could just shift my energy onto these other classes. And that's exactly what I ended up doing going into the third week. And we had a meeting, and I remember the meeting. We had this meeting where almost a third of the students in pre college were failing math. So I wasn't the only one. But the problem was they didn't have the fucking tutors that they needed to try and remedy the situation. Over 60% of the students were failing math. Word got down to the provost and the dean. Then, of course, because it was the summer session, they didn't have the student tutors to teach to help bring those students back up to what they remember about algebra. Because how are you going to remember algebra and you took it years ago? Like if you took algebra 1, I took algebra 1 back in 2004 to 2005. That was my freshman year of high school. So then once I got to college, it was like I don't remember half of this shit because I hadn't dealt with it for 3.5 years. Because most of the time when I went to algebra 2, we had trig, and even that was hard in of itself. So to transition back to algebra, I just couldn't. I just didn't remember any of the shit that I learned when I was in my freshman year of high school. You know, it's garbage in, garbage out for me in my mind mentally. But when it comes to English and reading comprehension, I did well in that. And I put all of my energy into those classes, and then I just ended up mentally pushing math aside because I already knew I was gonna fail that motherfucker. Because there was nobody there to help me. And it's like if I'm asking you for help and I'm asking you for tutors and you can't get me the fucking tutors, then why the fuck am I here? You telling me everybody's failing math, but then you ain't got the fucking tutors to help out. That's strike one. And the whole attitude of pre-college, once I got in, it was like, oh, you're lucky to be here because if we didn't give you this chance, you wouldn't have been a Morgan student. And that's how the attitude generally was set up with pre-college. Looking back at the whole experience, that's the type of bullshit that I got from a black school. It's like, yeah, we're gonna make you jump these fucking hoops and we're gonna make you jump through these hoops, but we're not gonna give you the help that you need or the tutors that you need in order to pass the course. And it's like I'm asking you for help and you're not giving it to me. So then what the hell else am I supposed to do? You know? But all in all, aside from that, in those 4 weeks, of course, I enjoyed meeting different people. And going to college, when people say, what's the bigger advantage of going to college is you get a chance to meet people from different geographical places. And I got a chance to meet people from all over the world. Well, all over the world because I met People from Nigeria. I met people from Trinidad, Tobago, one from Haiti, other one from, you know, parts of Lagos, Nigeria. And I didn't realize you get a varied cultural African diaspora experience at HBCU that you don't get anywhere else. So when it comes to social life, uh, HBCU is the best place all the way if you want to have a social life. Yeah, because you're gonna meet different people when you on campus. Now I don't know about that shit right now, but back then it was a good thing. I met one girl. She was from Philadelphia. Name was Monique. She was one of the first girls I met on campus, and I met her through taking yoga. It was a whole bunch of females in the yoga class, so I decided to sign up for that. And I always liked yoga, so I took yoga class, and you know what I'm saying. Since it was a whole bunch of girls in yoga, I got a chance to meet all these girls, all these women in yoga, and I was happy about that. And I met Monique, and we talked on campus. You know, she told me about South Philly, and we went to the step show together, and we talked and had discussions over there. And I remember it was the nastiest shit that I had ever seen. But when we went to the step show, we saw the Alpha step and the Kappas and the Qs. And I think the Qs were like the nastiest ones that stepped because they did some shit where we were right across from Calvin and Tina Tyler Ballroom Student Center, and they had a stage set up for the pre college students. So all the Divine Nines they went out to do a step show for us. And the very last one that did the step show was Omega Psi Phi, and they did this thing where when they was stepping, they took all their sweat off of their faces and they wiped them on each member, and the last member got all the sweat of their brothers. That was the nastiest shit I had ever seen at a step show. That's kind of nasty if you think about it, it, but when I saw that shit, I was kind of shocked. I was kind of repulsed by it in a certain respect. But I was like, it was fascinating to me because I had never seen a step show, you know. But besides all the classes, the people that I met across campus, there was another reality that didn't really hit me. And freshman year, when you get to freshman year, here's the big reality that people don't tell you. Freshman year is a make you or break you situation, right? Anything could fucking happen to you. And some of the girls that I met on campus the first year, they never came back the second year. The girl that I was talking to, Monique, once we got to the end of the program, I didn't even realize she was pregnant. And I had a crush on her, and I didn't even realize she was pregnant. Then come to find out, um, She couldn't go back to Morgan after that because she was pregnant. So she had to go back home. Another girl that I met, her name was Gia. She got pregnant her first year. She's from Fordham, Bronx, Fordham Road. She got pregnant her first year of college and she didn't stay. And the reality hit me for me because I already know I'm staying in. And, you know, once Gia was gone, once Monique was gone, it it I started to get used to this thing where, you know, look to the right, look to your left, one of these people won't be here by the time you make it to senior year. And that's the fucking truth. And that's the real truth because at the end of the day, fucking life happens. And the thing that I didn't get told when I was in high school is that once you go to post secondary, there has to be some flexibility. Some people ain't going to finish their first year. Some people do finish their first year and then they take a break and get a job. But for me, that wasn't an option for me because my thing was once you start school, you got to finish school and you can't take no breaks in between. And I think that's where we go wrong with a lot of college students is we tell them they're not allowed to take any breaks. Sometimes now I actually highly encourage students to take breaks in between their academic years. Get a little bit of work experience under your belt before you go back to graduate. We all ain't going to graduate with our class the way we thought we were, and everybody that and the fucked up thing about when I was going to pre-college at Morgan is we automatically assume all of us was going to make it to 2000 class of 2012, that we all were going to be in that same cohort and that we were going to rise and fall together. And it don't be like that in college. You're not going to graduate just because they say your intended graduation date is 2012. Don't mean your fucking graduation gonna be 2012. It could be 2014, could be 2017, could be whenever. It's whenever you fucking finish. I knew a motherfucker on campus that stopped going to Morgan at 1997 and came back in 2008 to finish his degree because he hadn't been to college in 11 years. And they don't tell you those stories. But then I started getting those stories, and then I started realizing the people in my classroom, once I went made it to freshman year, that there are older people that are going back to college to get their degrees. I didn't see that until I got to my freshman and my sophomore year and started seeing older people in my class that were 45, 54 years old trying to get a college degree. And they don't tell you this. They don't tell you high school teachers have fucked up the game so bad that they don't tell you these things because they don't want you to have the decision. And one of the worst things that I ever got was cut out of the decision making process or give me the leverage of the decision making process to what I could have done when I was deciding to go to college. Because when they talk to you about free student aid, and I got to talk about free student aid, but I didn't get to talk about how to fill out free student aid. And this is where the big crux of the whole college experience becomes so problematic for me And that's when you gotta fill out the free student aid and the FAFSA and the MHEC grants and stuff like I went to Morgan on a Pell Grant since it was a state school, so I got affordable tuition. But at the price of all of that, I was not informed about how to fill out student aid because my college advisors and my high school advisors did not walk students through the process of filling out a free student aid application because they felt as though, well, the parents needed to know about it, not the students. And I never really learned about that. So to go back to the story, um, I failed pre-college, but got conditionally accepted the first semester of, well, my very first semester, which was in September of 2008. And I was basically on academic probation. So I passed reading and English, and I got accepted into Morton on that premise as a freshman. And once I did my freshman year, it was it went by pretty fast. Freshman year went by very fast. And but the biggest issue that I had once I got past freshman year was really, like I said, Morgan is the type of school that will give you the runaround for minute shit. And what I mean by minute shit, I mean when it came to the financial aid process, which I tell people stories about that, the biggest issue with HBCUs as it pertains to Morgan State is that when we had financial aid, whenever you sent your financial aid package down to Montebello, it didn't get accepted. And then there would be issues, and then your schedule would get dropped. Nobody told me the difference between the bursar's office and records and registration and financial aid. They all three of them work hand in hand. The bursar's office, financial aid, records and registration. So what happened was once I was starting my sophomore year and I got a 3.0 grade point average, 3.3 grade point average. Once I started my sophomore year, I started to run into a whole bunch of bullshit. They dropped my courses, and this has been that has always been a thing with Morgan. If nobody had notified me, nobody had let me know that my school schedule, which was 18 credits, was being dropped. And then before you know it, before you know it, they dropped my schedule. Then I had to go run down to financial aid and tell them I they said that I didn't sign up for the FAFSA, and then I explained it to her. I sent the stuff in. I accepted the aid, but the aid didn't get processed by the bursar's office because there was this rolling balance. of $800 left over. So I didn't know what was happening because I did the process. I filled out the financial aid, student aid, and I sent it before March of 2009. So all of a sudden, I get to September. No, I get to mid August of 2009, and they tell me your aid wasn't accepted and all 18 credits were dropped. And I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And you mean to tell me you couldn't process my aid? And it's like one of the biggest problems with Morgan is the nepotism that goes on. Some people in financial aid, you get a lot of people that are inexperienced that don't know how to deal with financial matters. And it was like a whole bunch of bureaucracy. And we went through this year after year after year. And I I had to I had to learn how to think two steps ahead of financial aid and the bursar's office and records and registration. And the problem every semester at Morgan, anytime I was signing up for classes, they dropped my schedule. I wake up, go on Webster's. I have all my freshman classes for the semester dropped, drop. All of them end up being dropped. And they say, "Oh, you have a balance." And then they say, "Oh, well, you go to financial aid first." And it'd be a long ass line of financial aid. And then when you get to the end of the line, then they tell you this bullshit story about, oh, well, you gotta go to the bursar's office because you got an $800 balance. And I'm like, how the fuck I got an $800 balance? I thought I paid that shit off. And it's like, well, you gotta take it up with the bursar's office. And you go down to the bursar's office, then they'll fuck with you and they say, well, that's an issue with you don't have a balance. That's an issue with financial aid. You need to go to financial aid. And then financial aid, they say, well, yeah, well, that's not on our problem. That's not our problem. That's Bursar's office problem. And then they say, well, if it ain't the Bursar's office, then they send you the records and registration, which is right around the corner. It's always around the fucking corner. And they would play this game. It's like the three ring circus and shit with the bursar's office and the records and registration. And I got tired of doing that shit. I got tired of dealing with that bullshit. And I feel like I stuck with it for about 3.5 years. And then before you knew it, they fucked up my housing. I was gonna go stay on campus. They fucked that up. And every year, every year, it was always the stories. They book students housing, and then when they overbook, then they gotta stay at fucking hotels and shit. And it was always the same shit. It was always the same shit every semester. It's not like that no more. But I'm telling you, when I was there, it was some bullshit. And that's the thing y'all need to realize sometimes. Like every time you have some of these colleges that's always puffing shit up, telling you they're the national treasure this and the national treasure that, and you gotta look behind the scenes and really look at the bureaucracy and how the school got to where it got to, you know. And I often say sometimes, you know, when I was going there, I had a lot of good professors. I had some professors that decided to leave because they didn't have control over their curriculum. I had situations with the student press, like my freshman year, I signed up to be a part of the spokesman, and I thought I wanted to do be. I thought when I majored in communications that I wanted to be a journalist, but then you start seeing the whole hierarchy of things. It's like when you go to an HBCU, you have to play within a fucking hierarchy. So if you're a freshman, you're not getting you're definitely not getting access to camera equipment. That's one. Two, you're not going to get the even if you try to take initiative, there's always hoops you got to jump over. And at HBCU, like Morgan, they send you every which way. Like you got to jump over hoops. You got to get through gatekeepers and shit like that. And I was like, maybe journalism is not for me. And it kind of discouraged me because I wanted to be a journalist, but then it was a lot of bullshit that went on campus. You know, misappropriation of funds, people playing, wanton acts, like at a lot of other HBCUs. This doesn't go on at Morgan, it went on at a lot of other schools. And then, you know, it was the issue of robberies that happened on campus. Because whenever I went to the southern part of the campus, the place where, Thurgood Marshall complex was, uh, Rawlings Hall and Blount Towers, like it was a lot of shit that went on. Like people from the neighborhood were robbing people. And I remember my freshman year, kids was scared to go to the Haven after the shooting happened. Councilman, I forgot the name. Councilman Harris was shot at the Haven, and people were like, maybe it was time for all of us to stop going down there. And you know, one of the things that happened, like people were getting robbed and shot on campus, and that had always been a thing. Morgan, this is indicative of what Morgan used to be. It's not like that no more. But the biggest problem is, especially with HBCUs, is always non-students coming on campus, and this is where my pet peeve with HBCUs is that it's an open petri dish for trouble. Morgan has a reputation that doesn't allow for other colleges around the Baltimore area to even associate with them. And I remember when I was a student at Morgan, none of the Towson students wanted to intermingle with Morgan students. Goucher definitely didn't want to intermingle with Morgan State students. And I remember hearing about reputation, reputation. Oh, we don't deal with those kids. Those kids are ghetto. That's the ghetto state school. And I remember hearing this stuff, a lot of the racial stuff coming from Towson, coming from Goucher, Loyola. They do not want to mess with Morgan students. Morgan was its own worst enemy in that fact. And I say that all the time. If Morgan didn't have the reputation that it had, they probably would have more white kids go to their school. And most of the time, that doesn't happen. It's always the reverse. And when I became a sophomore and went into my junior year, I I decided, you know, I wanted to go ahead and look for internships. I wanted to go ahead and look for a job. I tried to get a job on campus. None of them would hire me. And I'm like, it's crazy because I'm like, my aunt works on this campus, and I'm like, you mean to tell me you can't give me like a part-time job just so I can put some money in my fucking pocket? They couldn't do that. I looked for a job on campus because I didn't want to be a broke college student. But the ones that were getting jobs were, like I said, nepotism. Oh, mama didn't work at Morgan, then the son gets to work at Morgan without going through the hiring process. Even if he wanted to work at the canteen, which I tried to get a food job working at Subway or working at the canteen, couldn't get one. Couldn't get a damn thing. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't get nothing. I tried working there. It was bullshit. I go through so many people just to get something on campus. And you try to be a student and try getting something at the canteen. Who are the people working at the canteen at Bulwark Fries? Nothing but motherfucking work release program niggas. The students couldn't get no job because they had people on contract that were from work release programs. People on welfare, people that just got out of prison. They can't get no job nowhere else. So they prioritize them motherfuckers over the students. And it was always that same shit. And I was like, I was trying to get a job on campus. I tried to get a work study schedule because I had good grades. Like I had a 3.0, a 3.3 grade point average. And I couldn't get shit on campus, you know. And then after my sophomore year, I decided once I was in my junior year to declare a major. And I declared a major like I had did intro courses for screenwriting, intro courses for video production, and one of the things that happened with the video department, which I'll jump right into, you know, I was in the communications department, and like I said, whenever I wanted to learn about the camera, learn about how to edit and shit like that, there was really nobody around to teach me. And it was like the the older guys who were the AV guys and the tech guys, they didn't want to spend time showing nobody Final Cut. They didn't want to spend no time showing somebody a DSLR or how to shoot on a DSLR. And this is like, wow. Like, you mean to tell me nobody in this department really wanted to take time to spend to teach the freshmen how to shoot video? I came in as a video production major my very first year at Morgan. I never switched my major. I took an intro course. I had a 100 a Calm 100 course and a Calm 200 course. Actually a Calm 100 and Calm 102. And that was introduction to media writing and intro to video production. So I had those two courses. The media writing course, I had a brand new professor. Her name was Professor Jam Donaldson. They hired her. And Jam Donaldson was my professor. She was the curator for a website called hotghettomess.com. If you don't remember hotghettomess.com, they used to come on BET. You look it up. I mean, crazy, crazy shit. I know this is old as shit because I'm telling the story, man. But Jam Donaldson was my professor freshman year 2009. And I could not stand her. She would show up like this professor would show up late to class, and it's always been a thing at Morgan. Like if you've ever been in the department, I had an African professor for economics. He would show up a day later after ad drop before and not give the syllabus, not give us the syllabus, not put the syllabus up on Blackboard. So we had this African professor. He would show up late, but he would expect his students to be on time. And I was like, this is the hypocrisy that goes on at Morgan. I'm like, how the fuck you gonna tell us to show up on time, but you 10 minutes, 20 minutes late? And I always had those professors, they were like Nigerian professors and shit. And they would always talk real soft and shit. And they put their name on a fucking board. And you knew they was African because you could smell a goat coming in the door and shit. But I mean, they smell like a farm animal, but other than that, they are a farm animal and a leather coat. Like they smell like it was like a mixture. Like you like, I remember how Russians smell like, and I don't remember how Nigerians smell like. And a Nigerian, they always smell like one half cologne, the other half a leather jacket, and the other half of a farm animal or the ass of a farm animal. So this guy, he was I forgot his name, Dr. Nagambe or some shit. And and he came in late and he would put he would put his name on the board and he wouldn't look at the class. Only time he look at the class, he'd be like, hello. It, it, and they, Nigerians, they talk in a very low voice. They say, hello, my name is Dr. Nagambe. I will be teaching you economics 101. Okay. Does everyone have the syllabus? They always put the emphasis on the S and shit. And and Nigerians, they talk very low. I remember I had another Nigerian professor in humanities, and we took humanities my freshman year. And no, it was my sophomore year. Excuse me, scratch that. I had another Nigerian professor my sophomore year because I had to take humanities, right? And it was always the skinny black African dude, right? And he walk into class and he said, "Good afternoon. My name is da 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 da," da." and then and then he passed out. Does everyone have this syllabus? Syllabus? Can everybody raise your hand, please? Yes, yes. And they always talk in monotone, like I can't hear this motherfucker. And I'm like, what's the assignment? Oh, yes, the assignment. The assignment is read 3 chapters of Langston Hughes. That's the assignment tonight. 3 chapters of Langston Hughes and 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 the wife of Beth Tess in Odyssey. And they always did like the African professors, they always like they real monotone. Like they look like they don't get mad. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, I'm like, what the hell have I gotten myself into? And the college experience has just got worse and worse as I went along because I always got these foreign professors that either don't speak loud enough or they speak in their native tongue and they don't pronunciate their broken English. They have all this broken English speaking professors that can't articulate a fucking thought. And I'm like, I go to college to get an education, but you having me sit here in the classroom and trying to fucking decipher this motherfucker, and he ain't even speaking loud enough. It's just the same Mickey Mouse bullshit, right? And I'm asking myself, I'm like, okay, what the hell have I gotten myself into? And I feel like my second year, my eyes was all on Towson. I was trying to go to Towson, like, man, fuck this shit. Like I'm trying to be at Towson. Towson, like I went on a tour of Towson, and I was like, yo, I want to be at Towson. I'm transferring to Towson, man. Their program is way better. I have to deal with this bullshit in this department. And I thought I was going to go ahead and be a film major at Towson University as opposed to Morgan State. And I thought I wanted to go. I my eyes was on a white school at that point because I got tired of the bullshit. I got tired of the run around with financial aid, run around with my classes, having to wait a month and a half for my fucking book scholarship to come through. I had a $500 book scholarship and I had to wait a month and a half to get the fucking book scholarship distributed to my account. And I'm like, why are you playing these games with me? And Morgan was always like that. They was always playing games with their students and they always try to make themselves look good to the public. But yet behind closed doors, they sitting up there fucking with students' money, fucking with students' financial aid, messing up people's accounts, dropping schedules without notice, messing up overbooking for housing. And we sit here and we say, well, we can't critique a HBCU because HBCUs are great places to go because of the band and because of the fucking step shows and the fried chicken and waffles and shit. And that's the thing that gets pushed on to students, but they don't tell them the truth that it's a lot of runaround and stress. And I shouldn't have to stress going to college trying to get basic education. I'm fighting to keep my class schedule because my financial aid wouldn't process my shit. I'm sitting up here. I'm mad. I get chest pains. I remember I had TMJ my freshman year. I had to go to the doctors to get a mouth guard for when I sleep because I was constantly biting my tongue in my fucking sleep from the stress. And that's the stuff that they don't tell you about. They don't tell you about, your high school teacher ain't gonna tell you about the stress, how to manage your stress, how to manage your time, how to fucking prevent TMJ from happening. Cause I had TMJ my freshman year and I was sitting up there, I was biting my tongue was bleeding and shit. I had to go to the doctors. Doctor had to give me a mouth guard for the first year. And then you get what's called the shakes. You know, when you feel like, I got the shakes the first year, it was so stressful. Like I didn't know whether or not I wanted to be continue being at Morgan. And then by the time my junior year came around, then there was more bullshit. You know, I took I took I actually dropped out of the film production program and declared a public relations major, and then I switched out of public relations because I had this professor, and I'm not going to name her name because I don't know if she's going to be watching this or whatnot, or she's going to catch wind of this shit. But if you know the professor and you went to Morgan in 2008 to 2012, then you know who the fuck I'm talking about in the department. But uh her name start with a T. I'm just gonna call her Dr. T because I'm not gonna put her last name out there. But I had a I had a public relations professor, and the first year I had her, she gave all her students the fucking runaround. And I didn't appreciate that. Like she never really lectured too much, but the shit that she did giving students the runaround, trying to figure shit out, that was problematic for me because I didn't like that. I'm like, if I come here to get the information, don't play no guessing game with me. I don't like that. And she played favorites. And one thing I know about the African professors, because I had a African professor for communications research, and he was a Fulbright scholar, but he would play favorites. He shows a lot of favoritism towards the women in the class, and a lot of these African professors, they do that shit all the time. You know, I had professors gave me a hard time. I had professors that were not very decent teachers. Some of them I had to figure them out. But the way that I choose professors for the department, I had to go on ratemyprofessor.com to figure out the type of professors that I was getting in the department to see what their personality is like so that I don't have to get to the end of the semester and try to figure out why the hell that I got the grade that I got. And a lot of the professors in the department, especially in the communications department at Morgan, they have you do the runaround. And I didn't have time to be fucking doing runarounds and guessing games. It was always a riddle. They was trying to have us figure out. And I'm like, just give me my fucking information that I'm paying for because I'm getting a little impatient with this. You know, I'm paying $150 for a book, and I expect you to just do the lecture and not have me figure things out or go on this wild goose chase. And that's what this one primary professor, she was a female professor, did. I took an intro to public relations. I thought I wanted to major in public relations because it was kind of like a corporate thing. I wanted to be in a corporate environment. So I took up public relations. And all of a sudden, I get to the class and I'm having this professor give out pop quizzes and shit. Not that I didn't like it, but then giving out midterm, we got to the midterm, everybody failed the fucking midterm. Now, how was that possible? You could say it's the student's responsibility, but it's also the teacher's responsibility to make sure that the message is delivered, right? So then I get to another portion of the class, and then, of course, she says everybody failed the midterm. And in order for you to get your grade up, you have to attend the Honda Challenge tournament. You had to participate in the tournament. And it was a little, she was the head of the game show there at Morgan, and it was a bunch of women participating on campus. A lot of the girls participated. I did one round, and she said all I had to do was one round. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, now I go back to class, and she says I only get half credit. You told me all I had to do was fucking show up. Now you telling me I'm only getting half credit for participating? And she's like, well, that's only fair. I'm like, get the fuck out of here with this bullshit. And I dropped the class. I dropped the class completely. I withdrew. I had time for that bullshit guessing game. And then this is another thing too. I declared the major in the department. I switched it to advertising. And this is where I said, fuck the whole school completely. I had academic advisors in the communications department tell me that I didn't get credit for communications 101 and 102 because it was audited. Now, how the fuck did that happen? Now, for those that don't know what an audit is basically you go in as a listener, but not as a student in the class. So you don't get a letter grade for the course. You get an AU, which is auditory, which you just going to hear the class. You're not coming in as a student. So when I did, I didn't do a course audit on communications 101, communication 100, and communication 102. I didn't do a course audit. So how the fuck did that get on my transcript? And that's a 3 credit course. So that means to tell me I gotta come out my pocket and pay for a course. I gotta retake a fucking course that y'all should have had completely letter graded on my records. And this is where the bullshit just started. And I was like, I took it and I took it and I took it. And then once I declared my major, which was advertising and marketing, they tell me I took an advertising and intro to advertising course under the false pretenses that they offered the major, that they had a major. They tell me in the department they don't have the major. And if you didn't have the major, why the fuck did you put it in the catalog that you had an advertising major? So I basically signed up for a course that was offered as needed. And this is the trick that they get you with. And this is one of the things, this is the one of the cautionary tales that I want to tell many parents and also students attending HBCUs and colleges in general. When a course says offered as needed, it doesn't mean that they offer the course. They only offer it as as if they could fill up the seats for that course. So if there's a demand for it, then they offer it as a credit. If there's not a demand for it, then they say it's offered as needed. And what does that mean? When you read in a catalog, in an older catalog, what does it mean when they say offered as needed? It just simply means that if you take a course, if you take a course and you you want to parlay that into a major, you can't really get credit for it because it really isn't a popular course. And the thing about it is, when I took the course, I thought that this was a major, actual major that people were actually doing. And the reality is you're not going you're not going to have the major, because if there's not enough people to be in the major, then you're not going to get credit for it. So I took two advertising courses, and then I went to my dean. Name was Dean Pruitt at the time. He was the head of the department, the School of Liberal Arts. And at the time, the communication major was housed under liberal arts. It wasn't a school when I was there. And I went to Dean Pruitt and I said, Dean Pruitt, I have a problem. I took two advertising courses, and this professor has just informed me that there is no such major as advertising and integrated marketing. That was the name of the major. And I let him know this was in 2011. This is my junior year. I informed Dean Pruitt that the department made an error. And I had to ask him, is it true that the department doesn't have an advertising major? And he informed me, he said, yes. But we do have a major, but it hasn't been approved by the Maryland Higher Educational Commission. He informed me of this, and then I'm like, okay, how do I substitute these courses? And he's sitting there and he's telling me, oh, well, you could take business major over at the um the School of Business, Earl G. Gray's School of Business. You could take your marketing courses over there and supplement those advertising courses for those courses. And I'm like, okay, but I got to I got to be a business major in order to do that. And then I got to retake even more courses, which is going to come out of my pocket. And I didn't want to do that, because this is where you got to hold these schools accountable. Why should I take any more courses at another school across the way because y'all fucked up. Because y'all offered a major that didn't have the students or the instructors to supply it. So basically, you lied under false pretenses. Now, I could have fucking sued them on that alone. I could have sued the department, I could have sued Morgan, and I could have sued the instructor that did that class. I could have had an easy, open shut lawsuit. But I chose not to go through with it because it would be a waste of time and a waste of money. But the reason why I'm saying this shit is I'm saying this as a cautionary tale. Be careful when you go to college. Be careful what you major in when you go to college. Because the money is going to come out of your pocket. Make sure you hold these people accountable. Because if I didn't step up and ask questions, I probably would have been stuck at Morgan. And the thing about with Morgan, I had this what they had this thing, a contingency agreement or matriculation agreement that if you get to 90 credits, then you have to finish out the remainder of your credits at Morgan State. You wouldn't be allowed to transfer any of your credits. And I tried to prevent that. I tried to prevent myself from hitting that matriculation agreement. And I got the fuck out of there by 2011 to keep myself from going over the credit limit. And this is where shit gets real bad. I didn't agree with the way Morgan was running. That was like the camel that broke the that was like the straw that broke the camel's back for me because here you got me running back and forth to Montebello. There's always this thing about Montebello moments where you go and attend the class for the first week, and then they put you on a list to tell you gotta go to Montebello to figure out why your bill or your balance is unpaid, and the shit starts to go downhill after that. And it was like I got tired of the running around at Morgan. I got tired of having to ask for my book scholarship to be deposited into my account on time before I start my classes. And it was shit like that. It's just basic common courtesy. If you're gonna offer me a fucking scholarship for $500 the least you can do is deposit it into my fucking account so that I could buy my books for the semester. And it was always that shit. I had to attend these events on campus in order to qualify for the scholarship. I go and I attend in the evening the qualify for the scholarship to keep qualifying for it. And then before you know it, I turn around and these same fucking people that I call black, supposed to be my brothers and my fucking sisters, are putting a drag in my fucking ability to get to matriculate and get across the stage. Same motherfuckers that we call black and call our brothers and sisters are the same motherfuckers that put monkey wrenches in your operation. And I got tired of that shit. I got tired of the running around for my financial aid. I got tired of running around with these fucking professors playing guessing games. Got tired of just the bullshit that I had to go through when I was going to Morgan State. And I got tired of it. So when I went to a predominantly white institution, when I transferred to Towson, that's when all the bullshit stopped. and I matriculated on through. It wasn't no problem with financial aid. When I went to a white school, when I went to a white school, it wasn't about the bullshit. It was about me getting my education and me attending classes and making sure that I properly, it's different when you go to a HBCU because everybody at HBCU, they don't get the type of rigor that a white school has. And I noticed that difference. When I was at Towson, the rigor was much more heavier. I might have had to do 5 or 10 page papers in maybe 3 classes, and I got the shit done. And the rigor versus at Morgan, you got lazy ass students that copy paste, that cheat off another student's paper. Athletes don't want to fucking do their job or do their homework, so they get somebody like an honor student to help them do their work because they didn't want to do no fucking work. And I remember times when I was at Morgan and I was in humanities class and the fucking football team or the Morgan State football team, they ain't want to do no fucking work. But they get somebody else to do their fucking work for them and try to pass it off as they own. Stupid shit like that. It was a lot of dumb shit that went on at Morgan, to be honest. People from the neighborhood coming on campus that ain't had no business being there. I lived in Rawlings my junior year, and when I was living in Rawlings Hall, I saw unknown people coming to the school. And then it was the stupid ghetto shit that happened in Rawlings Hall. When I was living there, they did stupid shit. They played with the fucking fire extinguisher. They put fire extinguisher foam in the hallway. Somebody's PlayStation got stolen. Somebody plucked the buttons out of the elevator. And you couldn't tell which floor was which when you was going up. They plucked the buttons out of the fucking elevator. How ghetto can you get? They put baby oil on the fucking steps. Just stupid shit. Just real stupid shit. And these were niggas that were from DC, that were from Chicago, Brooklyn, New York, New Jersey, all over. And they did not have the home training. Now you could say that yeah, that shit go on at white schools too, but what motherfucker put baby oil on a fucking staircase in a dorm room? I ain't never heard no shit like that. Just stupid, just straight up ghetto ass shit. And we want to say, oh, going to a HBCU is fun because you get to learn about your people. And I'm like, learn about what? I remember the foreign students didn't want to have no association. I remember when I was going to Morgan, the foreign students didn't want to have no association with the black students. They was just there because of the engineering program, because they wanted to get that engineering degree. Some of them were civil engineers, electrical engineers. They were putting in work. They didn't have a social life when I was on campus. You never seen them because they were always in the library. They was always in the math labs. They was always getting work done. Those were the foreign students. I never saw the Indian students want to party with the black students. I never saw that shit. I never saw the Latino students trying to party with the black students. I never seen the Caribbean, Haitian, or the African students wanting to party with the black students. But when the black students were on campus and they were partying, it was a mess. The Omegas throw a party, line out the fucking door of Calvin and Tina Tyler ballroom. It was a line out the door. Niggas was smoking weed, niggas was drinking, getting drunk, getting fucked up. And most of the people that came on campus weren't even students there. But they was able to get to the Q parties. When the Qs was throwing parties, everybody around the city would come. And then there was the incident at the Rick Ross Meek Mill concert. I went to the Rick Ross Meek Mill concert 2010. I was a junior at that time. And there was a fight right outside of Hurt Gymnasium. And the neighborhood guys would come through. And I remember there was a fist fight right outside. And I was walking. And all of a sudden, I'm walking, I'm trying to get home and shit. I see these two niggas fight. They fighting like they just whooping each other's asses. And then I see the Morgan State Police just jump in and then lock them up. And this was all during homecoming, you know. Then the next day I watched the march, the parade, and I went to go to the football game. I went to the football game between North Carolina A&T, the Augies, and Morgan State. I went to go see that. It wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. And once I got the fullness of the college experience, I wanted out of the HBCU experience. I'm like, this not what it was cracked up to be. Even when the teachers tell it to you, the shit was stupid. And a lot of my teachers, they led me astray. They lied to me, telling me this was what college was about, but it was a waste of my fucking time. And then, when I started thinking about college, I thought, once I got out of college, I was going to have lifelong friends. I was going to have all my friends like I was going to make a whole bunch of friends. That never happened. That never happened. Oh no. That never fucking happened. All the niggas that I knew that went to Morgan State, they went back to New York City, got a job. Ain't give a fuck about Baltimore. Baltimore what? I just went there for school. Ain't fucking with you. All the friends that I made my freshman and my sophomore year, they went back to New York. They got himself a job, got himself an internship. Ain't got a care in the fucking wind. When they say, you know, all this shit about, you make lifelong friends, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Cause most of the time, people that you ain't gonna be having any interactions with that person anymore. Once you leave, you come in by yourself, you leave by yourself. Now, maybe somewhere down the line you might link back up, but you're not gonna move to their town. They're gonna go back to their local town and get a local job and pay local bills. Everybody hyped up college as this thing where, oh, you're gonna have all these experiences and you're going to get to know people and you're going to get to network and you're going to get this job and this is how you get this high paying job is that you know somebody. Yeah, you went to school together. Oh, you pledged this sorority together. You know somebody. And I'm like, no, it don't work like that. That's bullshit. It doesn't fucking work. All this shit about it's all about who you know, not what you know. That's bullshit. Doesn't work. Doesn't work at all. It's just a big fucking lie. And I believed everything about a HBCU. I believe everything about the HBCU experience, and it didn't pay off, and it didn't amount to shit. It was just a bunch of hype, puffy popularity contests. People dressing up. Oh, you're broke because you don't have this. Oh, you're broke because you don't got a Ferragamo belt. You don't have a Gucci bag or the Louis Vuitton backpack. You ain't got the new Jordans. Oh, you not popping on campus because you ain't wearing no fucking skinny jeans. Just a bunch of it's like Morgan is basically high school for niggas, you know? And Morgan was always like that. Only people that probably did good was probably the PG County people. And like I said, like everybody that came out of Morgan at that time, if you're not from PG County, if you're not from Washington, D.C., and you ain't got those connects, you can fucking forget it. I ain't had those connects. I'm not from DC. I'm not from PG County. Ain't no fucking jobs in Baltimore. I sat here, I fucking lied to myself for years and years and years, thinking, oh yeah, Morgan's a great school. Morgan wasn't fucking great to me. In fact, I always had my reservations about Morgan even attending it. But my aunt wanted me to go there, and that was her expectation that I would graduate the way that she got into Morgan. But it was a bunch of bullshit. You know, I never went back there ever again. Last time I went back to Morgan was 2012, and that was for an award ceremony. I didn't want to see any of those people, and I didn't want to have any remembrance of it. I wanted to wipe them from my memory because of how I was treated at that school. I didn't gain anything important. But the ones that did gain something important, I mean, cool. Yeah, all these, you know, what did they actually amount to? They became corporate puppets, is what the fuck they became. They didn't have their own business, didn't start their own businesses. They became brand ambassadors, so they became, party hardy motherfuckers. And I noticed when I was on campus, because like I said, I remember when I was going across campus, I remember this dude named King Flexer. And I remember seeing King Flexer all across campus. I'm like, who the fuck is this nigga? Passing out these party pamphlets. Like everything's about a fucking party on this campus. And I remember there was so many flyers on campus, on the bridge. Every time I stepped on the bridge, there would be a party flyer stuck on the ground, like wet. And it would stick on the ground. It was like, oh, make sure you come to this party on West Utah Street. Like, why the fuck am I going to this party? They always have what they call street promoters and shit, passing out flyers for the hypest party and shit. And I'm like, I ain't got time for this. I gotta go to school. I ain't got time for these fucking parties. They always try to push, and you notice like on black on HBCUs, they always try to push liquor into these kids, always pushing fucking liquor. And you notice that these companies, these liquor companies like Ciroc and all the other ones, they always come on campus talking about they promoting a party and they want kids, college kids, to go to these parties to spend money, your hard earned money. I'm talking to the parents, your hard earned money on fucking liquor and hypnotic and all these other fucking brands that come on campus. And I'm like, you got these guys coming on campus, these DJs. I remember I remember when I was on campus, all of the swag surfing hype shit. Ain't nothing like a Brooklyn girl. I remember when that song came out. I remember when Ain't Nothing Like a Morgan Girl came out. I remember how hype that was. And then when that blew up on YouTube and all that other shit, Then all the hype people came through, all the record companies came through, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It was so much corporate bullshit that comes on campus, try to turn our children into puppets for fucking liquor companies. And that's what I saw. I saw that ugly side at Morgan, and they still continue in many colleges like Howard, Hampton, all these other places. It continues to happen. And people don't want to tell that fucking truth. But I'm here to tell it to you. You know, I got tired of Morgan. I went to Towson University 2012, and I never looked back. I say, fuck Morgan, good riddance. I'm done with y'all. I wrote Dr. Wilson a letter telling them about what they need to do with that department and how y'all wasting my time with these guessing games and figuring shit out and going from one professor to the next and trying to get what I need so that I can fucking graduate and matriculate. And I was like running around like a chicken with his head cut off at times when I was at Morgan, and I got tired of that bullshit. And that's why I said, you know what, let me go ahead and go over to Towson University and graduate and move the fuck on with my life. And that's exactly what I did. I got my degree. I got tired of the bullshit and then I moved on with my life. You know, and I feel like that's the most important thing is get in and get out. Everything else is a distraction. I had a challenge on my hands even when I went to Towson, but I love Towson because I felt like Towson was about their business. Bob Carrot did a good job at elevating Morgan to a well, not Morgan, Towson University to a professional environment where you could still have your fun, but it's all about the academics. Every time you heard about a Towson student doing good, they what they were doing in research labs and then what they were doing with in the math department and stuff like that, and you started to hear about like white students, it was all about an education. And I enjoyed every minute of my time at Towson because I met I had never interacted. I realized well, I was around black people my whole life. And I got a chance to interact, finally got a chance to interact with white people. And I enjoyed every minute of it. They weren't cliquish towards me. They didn't treat me indifferently. Like there was this whole, I got welcome to the Towson community. I was like, oh, welcome to Towson. Welcome to Towson. Hi, welcome to Towson. Are you new here? And I was like, yeah. The white guys invited me to play pool. I was like, I was embraced for who I was, not for you know, not for something that I was trying to be. I was embraced for who I was at Towson. I played pool with this white dude. Like I sat up there, we played pool all day. He's from Frederick, Maryland. I was like, yo, this guy's cool. This guy's really cool. I had better friendships when I was at Towson than I did when I was at Morgan because everything was about the party life. Oh, why you can't go to the party? You lame. You ain't got no game. You ain't getting no bitches yet. You ain't fuck no hoes. That's Morgan. Everything was about a party. Everything was about, trying to be as black. They say black as fuck. Try to be pro-black as much as possible. I got tired of that. I'm like, I can't be pro-black 24/7, man. I got tired of that. It got old real quick. I was like, you know what? I ain't doing this shit no more. I remember I was a member. There was an incident that happened on campus. I was a member of Smooth, Students Overcoming Obstacles Through Hard Work. And it was this light skinned dude by the name of Anthony Lampkin. I remember, cool guy, but very, very, you know, very sneaky. And I remember one time they wanted me to do an open mic night for Smooth since I was new to the group and they knew that I was a poetry slam guy. And I like doing poetry slams. I did one poem and the guy snatched me off the stage because it had too much profanity in it. And he said it was a clean act. And I'm like, you came to me. I'm like, nigga, you came to me and told me you wanted me to do a poetry slam for the ladies for Smooth Night. And I did that. So now you're going to make me at the group meeting get up and apologize to the whole entire organization for what? For nothing? Now I did it anyway. And then when I did it, here's what happened. The student center, there was this guy from student affairs. He wore a red jacket. He was obviously he was a Kappa. Big light skinned dude. I'm sitting up here and I'm apologizing to the group. I see him all the way across the hall. I see him standing up, walking in, all the way across the seating aisle. He got his fist balled up, like he about to hit me. I'm like, hold up, nigga. I know you ain't balling your fist up at me, motherfucker, for a fucking poem. That's why I knew I needed to get the fuck up out of there. Man, fuck that school. Like, y'all niggas is stupid. Every last one of them. And this is what they don't tell you about HBCUs is like all this fucking politics, the colorism, the fact that if you don't come from one of these, boule environments like Jack and Jill and fucking rich upper crust black folk, how you're treated indifferently because of who you are and where you come from. At least when I went to Towson, I didn't have to deal with that bullshit. I could just relax, get my fucking education, and go on home. And that's what I loved about Towson over Morgan. Shit, they even had better food. When I was at Towson, I ate Chick-fil-A, I ate barbecue, I ate very well and decently at Towson. And I enjoyed every minute of it. I love that school. But Morgan could kiss my ass. I mean, honestly, Morgan State could kiss my ass. I know they gave me an opportunity to be in college, but doesn't mean I have to jump hoops and kiss your ass. just for the opportunity to be here. And that's one of the problems that I feel like Morgan State as a school has. They think they think that you ought to be grateful you even got into college. And I was always often reminded, don't forget you cried and begged us to be here. And I'm like, well, I thank you for the fucking opportunity, but it doesn't mean I'm going to continue to kiss your ass simply because I chose to go to Morgan State. You know, I'm not gonna say I had an all round bad experience, but I did get to run around, and I didn't want that. 'Cause I was just trying to graduate and move on with my life, and they were making that shit harder than that. I'm like, first you want me to take all these courses, then you want me to take an exit exam to exit out of my algebra course. So if I don't pass the exit exam on top of the final exam, then I don't pass the course. Then you want me to take a second math course, and then on top of that, you want me to take philosophy 109 and then pass the exit exam for that. And then you want me to take the fucking writing proficiency exam before I graduate, and then another department proficiency exam in order to exit out of the fucking department. So I gotta remember all the shit that I did in the department in order to pass the department exam. Just so you can give me a piece of paper and say, yeah, I went to the national treasure, but yet you made it harder for me to fucking graduate. The stories that I heard, how, when Dr. Earl Richardson was at Morgan, how kids had to fight for a fucking library, and how the dorm rooms were dirty and dilapidated, and then on top of that, how students were 3 credits short of their graduation, told them they was going to graduate on time, but then they were 3 credits short, so they couldn't graduate. They done invited their family in the town, done invited people to a graduation ceremony that ain't even happening now because they didn't pass one course. I mean, you could still have the fucking graduation and then have them come back and just take that 3 credit course. That's how Towson did it. But then Morgan, no, they ain't gonna let you. Either you pass that 3 credit course, or you don't graduate from Beartown at all, or Bearland, what the fuck they call it. I'm tired of that bullshit. Wasn't that school isn't worth anything just because they got bigger facilities and they've expanded doesn't mean that it's going to be a quality education. And this is why I'm saying, don't send your kid to a school based off of name recognition. Go to Make sure your child gets into a school that will give your student or give your child a opportunity to get a job. And that's what the main primary thing should be. Trying to get a career. And most of these people, they can't get careers, especially at HBCU. Half the time, you working at some of these jobs that you can't even move up into. What good is a degree from an HBCU if you can't get a Fortune 500 job? Or even this, what good is a HBCU degree and you can't even create businesses in your own community? Think about that. I just wanted to tell my side of the story and my angle because so many students get led astray by these lying ass teachers and these lying ass college advisory boards Then y'all end up pushing y'all kids into these directions that lead to a dead end. Here I am at my age trying to get a decent job, a decent career, not just a job, but a career. And I found myself at a crossroads yet again. College didn't cut out to be anything but really a waste of my fucking time and a waste of my fucking potential. Because if I had known what I known 15 years ago, 15, 16 years ago, I probably would have chose to go to trade school. And then I probably would have been able to graduate and then have a job and a career and be out of my and be out on my own. But that didn't happen. And that's why I'm telling you my story. And I know some of y'all might get offended. Y'all might have something to say. Just put it in the comment box, man. I know not everything is like that. You might think I'm generalizing what I'm saying, but this is from my point of view. Everybody got their own point of view. Maybe you had a great experience at Morgan State, but I sure as hell didn't. And that's one of the primary reasons why I'm telling this story, because I'm tired of seeing this one-sided assessment talking about I went to the national treasure, but it wasn't the national treasure when I was there. It wasn't the national treasure when I was matriculating through Morgan. They make you jump hoops, they play favorites, and then there's the whole colorism thing of where you come from, where you reside, and what favoritism does to people. It was nothing but a second. And when I used to hear, when I was in high school, I used to hear stories that people would say, "Oh, Morgan is like a second high school," and it was. It was the attitudes, the girls, the way that they do shit, and most of it is anti-male. Whole environment is anti-male. Now, how many times are we going to see all these programs pushed on black men and on black students? All this bullshit about domestic violence and rape and sexual assault. Walk a mile in her shoes, and all this other bullshit programs. And then it's the LGBTQ shit. I ain't trying to be participating in that shit. But then it's the anti-male. What I started seeing is the anti-black male bias on campus as well from the women. And I'm like, we supposed to be here trying to get an education, and maybe have social events where we meet people and we find the love of our lives. And it never happened like that. It definitely didn't happen for me, because I thought I was going to have the love of my life after I graduated. I thought I met the right person, but she turned out to want to be with a drug dealer from Alameda. That's going to be another story I'm going to tell on the side. So I'm going to tell you that story. That's got a long ass journey to it too. But besides that point, you know, I don't regret my college experience, but I regret the wasted time that, getting from A to B in terms of matriculating. Now, when I'm out of it, it's like, man, why the fuck did I do this in the first place? And then you got kids that are younger than me. I'm trying to warn them. I'm like, yeah, don't make the same mistake that I made. Cause half of it wasn't worth it, and the other part of it was bullshit. And it was. It really was. Yeah. This has been another episode of Media Talks TV with your host, Tony J. I thank you for tuning in. I thank you for listening. And Be sure to hit the like and share this video with your friends. Um, all I can tell you is, for the young people that are going to be first year students in college, I had to say, make sure that you stay on the path and make sure that you get what you need and learn how to self advocate, learn how to stand up for yourself. Make sure you don't go along with the bullshit. Stop following the crowds. Don't follow these stupid ass trends. Stay away from the pills, the energy drinks like Four Loco. Stay away from the shit. And if you see something real wrong and it's problematic, make sure you speak to somebody. Go through your chain of command. Document everything and make copies of everything and save everything and back it up on the drives. You know, because anybody can dispute your claims. Just gotta keep your eyes open, man. Don't fall for the bullshit just because them dumbass teachers sit up there and tell you about their experience in college. Because a lot of the teachers that y'all got right now, they Gen Xers. Some of them are Gen Xers that are teaching your kids. These Gen Xers, they sit up there and tell fucking lies. They overhype shit. College for them, they barely just got a laptop computer during their time period when they were in college. So they wouldn't know what the fuck is going on with colleges right now. These political agendas, these anti-male biases that are happening on college campuses because it's majority female now. Don't let nobody force you to choose a path that you know you're not meant to be on. I went along with it because I thought that was the right path. But now I've been out of school for about 8 years. And none of it translated over to the real world or the real work world. So I'm now having to adjust to that at 33 years old. I realized the mistakes that I made and I'm accounting for them. But thank you again for listening. I'm Tony J, and I'm out. Peace.